Hello and welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be talking about the different planes and anatomical relationships of the human body. I decided to make this video because I struggled a lot in my studies with watching videos like this one when the sound was a bit chaotic. I wanted to create a calming study aid that you can either use to help you learn or just to passively enjoy while going about your day or drifting off to sleep. This is my first time making anything like this, so your feedback is always welcome. Please enjoy. So we're going to cover the very basics for people who haven't done much anatomy before, discussing the anatomical position and how we can describe locations of the body in relationship to each other. So firstly, let's go over the anatomical position. This is simply a way of representing the human body so that we can make sure different people are talking about the same thing. Usually the body is standing upright, facing the viewer with their palms facing forward and their toes pointing straight ahead with their feet together. All of the limbs are straight and the face is also directed at the viewer. It'll become clear why that's important very soon. And note that even if someone isn't physically able to reproduce this position, we still use it to describe the different parts of their anatomy. So, to build on this, let's look at the anatomical planes. I found these quite difficult to wrap my head around at first, so just try and be patient with yourself if it doesn't make sense to you straight away. Let's start with the transverse plane. This can also be called a horizontal or an axial plane. Unfortunately, anatomists don't always make up their mind. The word transverse has similar roots to the word traverse, i.e. walking across something, so that can be a useful way to think about it, because it cuts across the body horizontally. Something cut along a transverse plane would have an upper and a lower part. Moving on, let's take a look at the coronal plane. I first learnt that coronal comes from the Latin for crown. It's kind of important though to think more of like a tiara or a headband kind of crown rather than something that goes around your head, because this plane divides the body into front and back parts. The sagittal plane is easy to get mixed up as it can be confused with the coronal plane. The word sagittal comes from the same root word as the star sign Sagittarius, which is often represented as a centaur with a bow and arrow. The idea is that if an arrow was to pierce the body, it might do so from front to back, and that's exactly how the sagittal plane works. So they divide the body into left and right parts. Now might be a good time to mention that anatomical lefts and rights are not what you think. We always describe things in relation to the given body in front of us, not ours. So, i.e., if I'm describing their left hand, this will look like it is on my right, facing me. Hopefully that becomes a bit more clear with time. It takes a bit of getting used to. Unfortunately, it also starts to mess with your own lefts and rights, so good luck with that. Now that we have some points of reference, we can learn some of the terms that are used to identify relationships between the different parts of the body. As discussed, left and right are pretty intuitive as long as you remember to see it from their perspective and not your own. Anterior and posterior can be used to describe what we might call the front and back in anatomical position. For example, the heart is anterior to the spine. The spine is posterior to the heart. Medial and lateral are used to describe things in relation to like an imaginary line running down the middle of the body. That can also be called the median sagittal plane. So for example, the nose usually sits on the median sagittal plane with the eyes lateral to the nose. The eyes are medial to the ears. So superior and inferior can be easy to confuse because to me they sound similar to anterior and posterior. But try and imagine you're talking about positions in like a hierarchical business. Superior employees are conceptually above their inferiors. Likewise, the shoulders are superior to the knees and the feet are inferior to the knees. So proximal and distal are some more terms that come up a lot, but they're a little bit less concrete. Proximal structures are closer to something's origin, so think proximity. Distal structures are further from it, so think distance. This is mostly useful for the limbs. For example, the shoulder is proximal to the elbow, and the elbow is distal to the shoulder. Lastly, the terms superficial and deep, which are thankfully pretty intuitive. Superficial structures are closer to the surface of the body in relation to deep structures. So the skin, for example, would be superficial to the stomach, while the humerus bone is deep to the biceps muscle. So I hope this video has helped clarify some of the basic terms, or at least helped you feel nice and relaxed. I will link some other pages in the description that I found really useful in my studies. They might not be quite as relaxing. Finally, I just want to say, if you're struggling with staying on top of your study workload, just never forget that you're more than your grades. Your determination is very admirable, but there's a lot more to you than how much you know about the body. So take care of yourself. Okay, bye.